Recording. We are recording. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm so happy to be here in the middle of the day. It's 11:11 a.m. on Tuesday, March 30th. We are reading Price Pritchett's U Squared. U Squared. We started the book yesterday. We are reading the entire book this week. It's a short book, so I will have read by week's end the entire book for your listening pleasure. This is a wonderful book. It's called U Squared, a high velocity formula for multiplying your personal effectiveness in quantum leaps. I will continue. This chapter is called Change Your Personal Rules for Success. Leveraging up your personal effectiveness by an order of magnitude, going from U to U squared, is not a commonplace idea. You should not be surprised to hear that unconventional success calls for unconventional approaches. Isn't that true? Quantum leaps require paradoxical behavior, usually moves, actions that on the surface often seem to contradict common sense. That is very true. All the amazing, great ideas that have changed this world, people thought people were crazy. That's use your common sense. It was just very irrational of you. As human beings, though, we ordinarily go with the obvious. I'm double checking to see if my sound is on. Yes, it is. So as human beings, though, we ordinarily go with the obvious. We fall into the habit of relying on behaviors that seem to have worked best for us over the years. When we take an approach that seems to be very serviceable and which enables us to perform well and succeed, we become very attached to it. We don't readily relinquish that habit pattern. In fact, there's a tendency to follow our favorite approach more and more often, such that we get better and better at handling things that particular way. We get stuck in our ways, don't we? This adroitness, that's a word, this adroitness with a certain approach results in our overdependence on the strategies and tactics it involves. We resist new maneuvers because they make us feel clumsy, awkward, and more at risk. How many of you avoid trying new things because you're so set in your ways and you just want to avoid that beginner's clumsiness and, not looking as graceful or as comfortable as we are set in our ways? But if you want to accelerate your rate of achievement rapidly, you must search out and vigorously employ new behaviors, new attitudes. You must be willing to break out of your routines in order to make the quantum leap. The things that worked for you in the past very likely could, sooner or later, lose their serviceability. Even if your customary approach still holds promise for maintaining your present level of performance and growth curve, it may not help much if you want to hit far higher achievement levels. And if you continue to rely on those old routines, maybe even leaning on them most when your performance flattens out or sags, you create a trap for yourself. There is a certain irony here. Your historical most dependable behavior can become the major obstacle to future success. It's possible for them to cripple your progress. They may stand as personal boundary lines that limit what you can accomplish with your life. Where are you standing in your way? There is, however, another course of action. It is the way of the quantum leap, U squared. The following chapters explain the peculiar strategy that is involved. Next chapter. Quit trying harder. Quantum leaps cannot be achieved through incremental steps or through more of the same. You've got to shift gears. You have to follow new patterns of thought and action. The rules of what works and what doesn't always change when you are trying to make a move from normal performance to U squared. Stop and think about it. Here's the way it goes. More of the same usually just gives you more of the same. Ain't that funny? Of course, if that's mainly what you're after, fine. Try a little harder to get a little bigger payoff. So, of course, if that's mainly more of the same, getting more of the same, doing more of the same, getting more of the same, if that's what you're after, that's okay. Try a little harder and get a little bigger payoff. Try a lot harder and you can expect a lot better results. Sooner or later, you're going to reach the point where you can't try any harder. It may be that your spirit flags or that your physical and mental resources are stretched to the limit. And often, well before you come to that set of circumstances, you reach the point of diminishing return. Trying harder and harder starts producing less and less. Sometimes, in fact, intensifying your efforts produces nothing more except bigger problems. Woof. I've experienced that. As a case in point, go back to the story of the fly. That little insect could have turned away from the window 180 degrees and followed the path of least resistance as it flew to the open door. A quantum leap to freedom. 10 seconds of effort flight would have produced total success, while hours of frustration and panic spent beating its wings against the glass were destined to end fruitlessly in death on the dusty windowsill. Now, this is not an argument against self-discipline or persistence. I was thinking the same thing. Well, if I meet resistance, do I just run and try to go another way, or do I stick with it? This is what he's addressing. He's saying now it is not an argument against self-discipline or persistence. Those are true virtues. Over a lifetime, they can make a powerful contribution to success and achievement. They are fundamental to the development of your talents. It's extremely important to apply yourself diligently, and sometimes staying power is what delivers a big win. Sometimes being persistent and going after that delivers the big win. But ordinarily, you will find that trying harder produces only incremental gains, not quantum leaps. Also, keep in mind that trying harder, even a lot harder, sometimes offers little more than a straight path to burnout. You have to really discern and by what you feel. How are you feeling? Are you feeling burnt out? Are you feeling defeated? Are you feeling discouraged? Feeling is the secret. Whatever you feel, as long as you're in the emotion, the feeling of it. We talk about it all the time. If it's in your heart, you'll get the results. But if you're not feeling it and you're feeling worry and doubt and fear, that's what you're going to get, or that's what you're going to experience. Now, so it's saying this is not an argument, being persistent and staying power can deliver a big win. But ordinarily, you will find that trying harder produces only incremental gains, not quantum leaps. Also, keep in mind that trying harder, even a lot harder, sometimes offers little more than a straight path to burnout. Attempting to succeed through more of the same, being resolute and relying on committed effort can blind you to better pathways. I guess this is how I would interpret that. Be persistent and be focused, but be open and malleable to new ways. Keep your eye on the prize, on your goal and your dream. But as we talked about yesterday, the pathways, the doors to it can change or might come in a way that you didn't expect. So be open, be a palm tree, flexible, rather than an oak tree that'll break when the winds come, or when challenges, or when times get tougher, you're at a more challenging growth point, something that scares you a little bit more. Let me read that again. Keep in mind that trying harder, even a lot harder, sometimes offers little more than a straight path to burnout. Attempting to succeed through more of the same, being resolute, and relying on committed effort can blind you to better pathways. So you can get so stuck on how you're going to do it in one way. And if you're coming against that barrier, it's not to give up on the goal. It's just maybe give up on that window, that particular door or pathway. So always keep your eye on the prize, but keep your eye on many doors. If you want to make a quantum leap, quit thinking about trying harder. More effort isn't the answer. Next chapter. Ignore conventional approaches. Get ruthless about trying something different. You hear me? Get ruthless about trying something different. Ordinarily, we achieve conventional growth because we think along conventional lines. We experience reasonable performance gains because we rely on reasonable approaches. How many times do you hear people say that? Be reasonable. You're being unreasonable. Everyone wants to be reasonable. That's not how things get done. That's conventional. That's going with the flow. Okay. We experience reasonable performance gains because we rely on reasonable approaches. We find ways to make modest improvements in our level of success because we go looking for nothing more. Quantum leaps require you to abandon the status quo. Instead of once trying, quantum leaps require you to abandon the status quo. Instead of once again trying what you have always done, maybe with even more intensity and determination, ignore the usual. U squared requires an abrupt change in behavior. Abrupt change in behavior. Look for a paradoxical move. For example, consider reversing your field. Try being illogical. Ricochet. If you're trying to climb over the wall, open a door and walk through. If you're pushing against the river, try going with the flow. Use finesse instead of effort. Use finesse instead of effort. You must do something new. You must do something new. The tendency when you stall out or begin to level off in your performance is to go back to the basics and do what you do best. But doing what you do best can be the worst thing you could do. It really doesn't matter how well you can do something if it's the wrong thing to do. Faith in the familiar sets a trap. Faith in the familiar sets a trap. You spring it when you reinvest yourself in what logically seems like it should work because it usually worked in the past. To make a quantum leap, you've got to break out of the rut where you've been running. Second guess your routines. Overcome the addictions to your old methodologies. Set a new pattern. If the things you're doing have quit working, stop doing them. Focus on what works. If you'll just quit what you've been doing instead of doggedly doing it harder, you at least create an opportunity, some white space to do something else. Quantum leaps come when you seek the elegant solution. So look for an approach characterized by simplicity, precision, efficiency, neatness. It won't be as complex or time-consuming as your present struggle. Overall, it will be less demanding of your energies and emotions, and it probably will not be familiar to you. U squared calls for a fresh perspective, a deft move, a path of less resistance. There is a way you can do more with less. And at the top, when I was saying that's the easy way, that's this, I meant following what everybody else does, the conventional way, because that's what we're comfortable in. So this is the last chapter I'll read for today, called Think Beyond. It's one page. What common sense would allow. Most of us can be found flying too close to the ground. Too often, we don't give ourselves permission to soar. It's time to start focusing on the possibilities rather than on limits or obstacles. Making a quantum leap means moving outside your mental boundaries. If you will rethink how you're thinking, you can multiply your performance potential. You must let your desires guide you. You must let your desires guide you. Again, my friends, what is all of this? You must let your desires, your heart, your feelings, your emotions, let that guide you. Then your logic is going to step in and say, well, how's that going to happen? Stop. Just live from your emotions and from your feelings, from your desires, from what you really want in your heart of hearts. Your heart is in your mind. It's an energy. What's in your heart of hearts? What do you desire most? Let that lead the way. The how and the buts and the why it can't be done's, we can't afford. We cannot afford that. So it's time to start focusing on possibilities rather than on limits or obstacles. Making a quantum leap means moving outside your mental boundaries. If you will rethink how you're thinking, you can multiply your performance potential. You must let your desires guide you instead of allowing yourself to be boxed in by perceived constraints. Seeking the quantum leap means violating the boundary of the probable. It means achieving well beyond the obvious. So don't limit your desires to what you think you can have. Start going after what you want. Let me just stop right there. When I say that, so don't limit your desires on what you think you can have. Start going after what you want. You can say, Carla, isn't that selfish? What about all the other people in the world? Let me tell you right now, you're not going to help anybody. You won't help anybody in the world until you first get yo shit right yourself. Have you ever been around someone who is really living their goals? How influential, inspiring, motivating, healing are they to be around? We need to do that. It's the whole, mask thing. When you're on a plane, you have to be it first before you can help anybody. If you have this martyr, mentality of like, I'm just here to help. If you're a mess, and a lot of people, I want to say 95%, I mean, that's a big thing. I'm in the therapy world and I've seen people, anybody in the medical or healing or helping arts. If you don't have it right, you will burn out because you think you're just here to serve and you never give to yourself or replenish this battery, really, that's charging the whole whatever you're doing. And you start resenting. You start hating what you do. You have to be happy yourself first. You have to get, and you deserve it. We all do. Every single person. It doesn't matter. So if anybody, and it's something we're told, like, poverty is virtuous. Be humble. And humble, look up the word humility and really study what it means to be humble. It doesn't mean to give away all your belongings. And if you're materialistic, it's like, no. Know that you are just a vessel. And any desire you have is something bigger trying to be expressed through you. Every desire you have, every knock at that door in your heart, you feel it in your belly and your chest. A want, a desire, it's a knock at the door. And if you don't open it, shame on you. Because it's asking to come through you. It's usually a dream, something that'll make you feel amazing and your heart soar. I want to be around more people like that. But everybody doesn't listen because they're afraid of what other people will think. We've talked about that a lot here. I digress. Okay. Seeking the quantum leap means violating the boundary of the probable. It means achieving well beyond the obvious. So don't limit your desire to what you think you can have. Start going after what you want. This means you must give yourself permission to dream, to risk. You must set yourself free. Yeah, we're all imprisoned. A lot of people are imprisoned. I have my days still, but I am 180 degrees from where I was just a couple years ago. A lot of you guys know how I've changed. We have to set ourselves free. We follow this hidden rule book. And it's imprisoning. It can make you feel like you're trapped, that there's something standing between you and living your whole full potential. A 10 or 20% improvement isn't the idea at all. That would represent only incremental gains. That might be an impressive performance in some situations, like if there were usual obstacles or a very difficult set of circumstances. But while such a goal might be challenging, it would not represent a quantum leap. Instead of an additional 10% or so, a quantum leap produces a dramatic and multiple gain, an exponential increase. Quantum leaps are by definition rather astounding, certainly unconventional. Don't get the idea that absolutely anything you can think of is possible. It isn't. But in some areas of your life, what lies within your reach is enough to stagger the mind. So don't get the idea that absolutely anything you can think of is possible. It isn't. I love this realistic, grounded, just let's be real. There are laws, laws of nature. So for example, and I truly doubt that anybody has a deep desire in their heart of hearts, and they know they can do it, they're willing and able. That isn't possible. Because if we're in denial or we are holding on to, something that we're trying to prove to other people, and we're doing it for the wrong intentions, usually that kind of stuff doesn't work. For example, if someone wanted to be, I use this example. Let's think about it. Women. There are, and the ceilings keep breaking as far as, women having babies at an older age. But if you have already gone through menopause and you're 60 and you're like, I want a baby, I want to have my own baby. Is that realistic? Are you willing and able? You might be willing, but is your body physically able? The answer is no. So this is working with the laws of nature. I think that's what he meant. Don't get the idea that absolutely anything you can think of is possible. It isn't. But in some areas of your life, what lies within your reach is enough to stagger the mind. You know what? Who knows? Maybe someone 60 can't have a baby, but you know what I mean. It says you can double your level of success, triple it. Far beyond that, you can leverage up your performance to the second or third or fourth power or beyond. True, there are limits, but you don't need to worry about them. Your real limits are far beyond your artificial mental boundaries. The real limits won't box you in, but the false ones you're carrying around in your mind are a self-imposed prison. So how do you break out of the jail? Through surrender. You have to forfeit some of your old beliefs and sacrifice some of those sensible thinking patterns. So-called common sense can be a curse that puts a ceiling on how far you reach or how high you fly. U squared, the quantum leap strategy, is based on uncommon sense. The next chapter tomorrow, we're going to start on is Suspend Belief. That was my reading for today of Price Pritchett's U squared. I'm going to read this whole book this week. Enjoy. I have yesterday. We started yesterday. We're doing today. Then throughout the week, we'll have read the whole U squared. It's about quantum leaps, unconventional thinking, uncommon thinking, to not just, if you have a dream of, I want to just make $1,000 more a month. No, what's uncommon? Let's triple it. Go there. What do you want? Let your desires drive you. Feel into it, Really do that. If you have any questions, you just message me and let me know. I love talking to you guys. I will continue to do this all week, and I'm looking forward to, I think I mentioned Thursday, May 6th, I'm going to start like a 10-week kind of study and teaching weekly, 5 p.m. on Thursdays, Pacific, starting in May. I will promote it more, and it'll be a live Zoom call you can join. I'm looking forward to that. I hope you all have a wonderful Tuesday. I will see you guys tomorrow.